Hello everyone, welcome back to Witchinary. If you have yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so because we're getting crafty. Today I wanted to bring to you the Simon Says Stamp Cool for the Summer July 2018 card kit. This card kit brings the One Cool Pineapple 6x8 clear stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, some Cartabella paper, and some Amy Tangerine stickers. The only thing this kit essentially doesn't bring is your kitchen sink, and I am okay with that. Anyway, I'm super excited, so let's get started. For most of my cards, I literally was obsessed with the Amy Tangerine stickers, so that's what I heavily relied on for most of my cards. To start, I decided to rip out this panel from the sticker set and make a card base or card panel for myself using some Fawn Stitched rectangle dies. That said, I took the peacocks from the sticker pack and I just stuck them onto some white cardstock, and I decided to fuzzy cut those images out. The reason why I did this is because I really wanted opaque characters for this card. Normally I don't mind clear stickers because I really love to layer them, but for these cards this was very important for me. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to take out my guillotine and I'm going to just cut around the stitched portion just because I want to make this panel slightly smaller than the A2 size card. So once I'm done doing that, I go hunting for my sentiment. The reason why I wanted to make this card is because it's summer. That means that many of us are going to be hanging around with our friends, and every social group has a peacock inside of it. If you don't know what a peacock is in a social circle, it is essentially the person in your social group that always looks impeccable. When they show up, like they came to slay. They didn't come for anything else. And although you secretly dislike the peacock because they always look amazing and you can never look like that, yes you can. I bet you anything you can. You have to take care of these peacocks because they're the ones who get you free drinks and they're the ones who get you into places for free, and sometimes they show up with a free box of Raisinets at the movie theater that they got from the concession stand. So because I love my peacocks and my peacock is my friend Josh, I decided to make this card for him. So once I'm done getting the two sentiments that say you've got style for sure, I decide to take out some ultra matte black cardstock and make these strips. And the reason why I did this was because my peacocks were just a little bit too free floating for me on this panel prior to these little strips. So I really wanted to make sure they were anchored down on the actual card panel itself. And I decided to do that just bringing down some dark strips. You can honestly make these strips from anything. If I went a second route, I probably would have made them out of little gold strips or even washi tape, and I would have just used that. Now that the peacocks are actually mounted onto the panel and they look like they're not free floating, I used some foam squares to raise them up to give this card a little bit of dimension, and then I wasn't sure where to place the actual sentiments, so I went with the You've Got Style at the top and the For Sure at the bottom to kind of make it seem like the peacocks are kind of talking to each other, but not necessarily. I also took out some hearts that were in the sticker packs that were holographic, and I love it. I just adhered them down to the card. No need for opaque paper. They worked fine. I trimmed off any excess from the bottom, and then I just adhered this little bit to the top to make it seem kind of like there were stairs on here. And just like that, my first card is done. For my second card, I wanted to make a Flamingo Window card, and I really wanted to play around with the actual stamp that coordinates with this die. So I go ahead and I stick a piece of white cardstock to the inside of this card base, and I do so using some Tombow adhesive or tape runner to it. Once I'm done doing that, I take out my mini Misti and I take out the flamingo stamp and I just line it up with the window of this card. And I really wanted to just bring on that stamp set, or that stamp that said, "Be a flamingo among pigeons." So I decided to make a card that had a flamingo, and then I used the sticker pack to kind of make it look like it was a flamingo that had pigeons around it. But anyway, for the flamingo, I decided to do some Copic coloring, and I listed the Copic colors at the bottom. I am not the most talented when it comes to Copic markers, but I do want to learn and I am working on it, especially because I really love to collect Copic markers. They're kind of like my guilty pleasure whenever I go into a craft store. But I'm not the most, I guess, well-rounded, versed person when it comes to using them. But I do know you go from lightest to darkest. So that's what I did, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I did. I didn't do anything super fancy. I tried to guess kind of like where the shadows would be, like towards the bottom, but then I left like this super white patch in the center of this flamingo, so I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I tried to follow some rhyme or reason. I also go ahead and I color the legs and the beak of this flamingo, and I think he came out okay. I think he looks fine, so I'm not super mad at this flamingo. I then take the little birdies from the sticker pack and I just adhere them down to some white cardstock and I fuzzy cut around them to make it seem like these are the pigeons. But I have to admit, if these were the pigeons, then this flamingo has competition. So maybe the sentiment doesn't really apply. But we're going to pretend. We're going to make pretend. Just for the sake of the sentiment. After I'm done raising the little pigeons up with some foam squares, I go ahead and take a piece of ultra matte black cardstock and I take my paper rounder and I round off these edges. I then go ahead and use some Versamark ink to ink down the sentiment, and I use some Paper Source white embossing powder to heat emboss the sentiment onto the black matte cardstock. I then got the idea that I really wanted to bring the black cardstock onto the glittery paper, but I know that glitter paper is extremely hard to stick anything to. So from my gift wrapping stash, I took out some super iCraft tape, and this tape will literally adhere your sins to your next life. It's very, very powerful. I use it very often in the winter, and that honestly did the trick. It stuck on immediately and I loved it. So once I was done there, I just adhered the sentiment down to this card base, and I thought it still looked a little bit plain, so I used some of the stickers from the sticker pack to just add little hearts to tie everything together. And I think that looks really, really good, and just like that, we are done. For my next card, I decided that I wanted to make like a card that looked like a vision board for the summer, or like a schedule for the summer. So I decided to take the days of the week, and I did the same thing that I've been doing this entire time. I actually used this trick throughout this entire video, and I fuzzy cut around these words. I then take a piece of cartabella paper and a piece of craft paper bag paper from Paper Source, and I make like a slightly smaller panel for the inside of this card, and then I kind of start playing around with orientation. Truth be told, I thought I had a piece of corkboard paper in my stash. I don't. And when I originally had this vision in my head, I thought about like the corkboard that I have close to my desk and how I pin pictures and other lovely things that people send me to it often. And I kind of wanted to do like the summer edition of that, but on a card base. And I didn't get the opportunity to do that. So I made do and just pulled out this piece of paper and just went to town. From the cartabella paper, I cut out the little images that said See Sun Fun or See Fun Sun, which made no sense, but See Fun Sun, Beach More, Worry Less, and New Friends. And I thought that those were cute enough, like little sentiments or images to put on this card. You can honestly alternate them with Pool Therapy or Vacation Crush or Beach Please, and then the different days of the week. However, these just seem to fit the card for me, so that's what I went with. I go ahead and I raise up the days of the week using some foam squares. Excuse me. And once I'm done doing that, I just take some washi tape that I had on my desk, and I just tape down the corners of each one of these little images down to my card panel. The reason why I did that was because, again, I didn't have corkboard. Otherwise, I'd be using some Nuvo drops to dot the corners of everything to make it seem like it had pins inside of it. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to adhere my panel down to my card base using some Tombow some Tombow adhesive. Anyway, once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to take the stickers, the puffy stickers, and I'm just going to stick some of the ones that kind of look like they're vacation related down to the actual card base. And that honestly finishes off my card, with the exception of the sentiment. I went with the panel that said, "You can never have too much beach time," and I absolutely love this card. For my third card, I was very inspired by one of the cards that was on the inspiration paper that we got with the card kit. But instead of using cacti, I really wanted to use flowers. And the flowers were very much great for this, because they kind of gave the illusion of the desert. And I was really, really much okay with that. I also went ahead and did the exact same thing with the cardstock, and I also played around with some of the moths and the butterflies. I'm not sure if they're moths or butterflies, but I did the exact same thing that I'd been doing before, and then all I did was play around with dimension. I used my Tombow tape adhesive to tape down the larger flowers, and then I used some foam squares to raise the second panel up just to give a little bit of dimension. And I do the exact same thing with the butterflies and the moths. I use my tape runner for certain ones, and I use some foam squares for other ones. Excuse me. I really like the way that this came out. It reminded me of like summer in Arizona or something, and I was super okay with it. I was looking for a sentiment, and I really couldn't find one that like really matched. So I ended up putting this panel down and then layering the sunshine word on top of this little panel on the corner. And I liked that it was holographic because it stood out against how busy this background is. I then took out my Nuvo Oyster Gray Nuvo drops, which I've said twice, my Nuvo Oyster Gray drops, and I just added little dots here and there to give the illusion of like something else fluttering around with these like flying insects. Normally it would be mosquitoes, but here we're gonna say it's magic. Little magic floating around these insects. And just like that, we are done. For my final card, I was really thinking about one of my friends. Her name is Kate. She's really cool, and I don't think she realizes how cool she is, but she's like cool in a very like, I can't even explain it. Like, she's really like down to earth, but she's also really cool. And when I thought about her, I was like, oh my god, it would be so cool if I had like a watermelon sort of card, and then gave it like some like the shades to go along with it. So I end up marking off 2 different places where I'm going to put different papers, and then I just do a zigzag pattern using the watermelons. Once I am done doing that and I'm satisfied with my little zigzags, I'm going to take out my Copic markers again, and I list them below for you. And I just go ahead and paint these. These I actually kind of do a little bit wrong because I forgot there was a rind there. So I colored over my rind, and I didn't want to start this card over because it was literally super late at night and I just really wanted to get this card done. So I just instead go over the second little rind with a darker Copic marker. Once I'm done there, I take out this pink card paper, or the pink Cartabella paper, and I make 2 strips from it, being very careful because I absolutely love this card, like just this card paper, so I didn't really want to waste it too much. And it had like soft drinks on it, so I was like, oh my god, this is so Kate. Anyway, once I'm done doing that, I raised the 2 strips of paper, the 2 pink strips of paper, using some foam squares, and then I placed these little watermelon puffy stickers around the edges of this card. I actually play around with these little watermelon puffy stickers a little bit, so they don't end up in the same place where I had originally put them. But for now, this is kind of like where they stay. But it's fine. It's totally fine. For my sentiment, I definitely wanted to do the "You're one in a melon," and I do the exact same thing I did with the flamingo card. I heat emboss some white heat embossing powder to some ultra matte black cardstock, and I used some some super tape to adhere the not the card panel, but the cardstock down to some glitter paper, just to make it stand out a little bit more, make it pop, and then I just adhere that directly down to my card using some foam squares instead of some Tombow tape runner. Once I'm done there, I thought the card needed a little bit more pizzazz, so I go ahead and I use my Nuvo drops, and I kind of use them as clear, as glossy accents, and just go over my little pineapple a couple of times. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the first 5 cards that I made with this kit. Tune back in later on this week and you will see 5 more. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.